right, today we're getting into the real stuff. The heartbreak, the drama, and those jaw-drop moments behind some of the most legendary black bands ever. From chart-topping hits of the Isley Brothers
And if you ever leave me, I don't want nobody else.
to the tragic ending of the Bar Keys. To unexplainable deaths like with the lead singer of the Drifters. These are the stories that'll have you going, wait, how did I miss this? We're digging into 20 black bands with tragic endings. Starting with the Bar Keys, started out as a go-to crew for Stax Records, backing up some of the biggest names in the game. But when they dropped Soulfinger in 1967, that was their Hello World moment, a funky, high-energy anthem that shot them into the spotlight. Fast forward to the 70s and 80s, and they totally flipped the script. They went all in on funk, cranking out hits like Shake Your Rump to the Funk and Freak Show on the Dance Floor. Their music, always fresh, always ahead of the curve. And their stage presence? Let's just say they knew how to put on a show. But their story took a heartbreaking turn. While traveling with Otis Redding, a plane crash tragically claimed the lives of Redding and most of the band. Trumpeter Ben Cauley was the only one who survived, and bassist James Alexander missed the flight because of a packed plane. Next, Lynn Collins and the female preacher band Lynn Collins. The iconic female preacher wasn't just another vocalist. She was the spark that lit up James Brown's legendary band. This wasn't your average backing group. They were a groove machine that practically invented funk as we know it. With James Brown calling the shots, they became the blueprint for countless hits. One of their biggest moments? Teaming up with Lynn Collins for her banger, Think About It. James Brown produced it, the band brought their signature funk heat, and Lynn delivered vocals that could stop you in your tracks. The song's breakdowns and that iconic yeah woo bit, pure gold. So much so, it's been sampled by everyone and their mom in the hip-hop world. The band dealt with the grind of endless touring and the pressure of keeping up with James's famously intense demands. Meanwhile, Lynn struggled to break out as a solo artist in an industry that constantly sidelined women. Her story came to a heartbreaking end when she passed away at 56, way too soon. Next, the Soul Stirrers. The Soul Stirrers were straight-up legends in gospel, known for their electrifying harmonies and soul-stirring delivery. This crew was a game-changer, laying down the foundation for the rhythm and blues and soul sounds that would follow. They may have had different members over the years, but they always kept the music top-notch. But let's talk about their real moment when a young Sam Cooke joined the group. His smooth, emotional voice took their sound to a whole new level. They dropped iconic tracks like Jesus Gave Me Water and Touch the Hem of His Garment, showing off those epic harmonies in Sam's voice, which would later turn him into a soul legend. In 1960, lead singer E.R.H. Harris passed away, leaving a huge hole in the group. Then when Sam Cooke decided to go solo, it marked the start of his pop and soul superstardom. Next, the Drifters. The Drifters were the group that helped shape R&B and doo-wop into what we know today. Formed in 1953, the group had a revolving door of members, but every lineup contributed to their iconic sound. One of their standout moments came in the early 60s when they worked with legendary producers Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller. With Rudy Lewis leading the way, they dropped some of their biggest hits like There Goes My Baby and Up on the Roof. These songs were the perfect mix of soulful R&B and smooth doo-wop, with just the right amount of drama in the orchestration. Up on the Roof became a defining pop anthem of the era. In 1964, the band was rocked by the sudden death of lead singer Rudy Lewis. He was found dead right before the band was supposed to record, and while the cause is still unclear, rumors pointed to heart failure or possibly an overdose. Next, the Marvelettes.
There must be some
The Marvelettes were formed in 1961 in Michigan. Their big moment came in 1961 when they dropped Please Mr. Postman, which went straight to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It was a total game changer, making them the first female group from Motown to top the charts. That catchy melody and endless energy made it an instant classic. After that, they kept the hits coming with songs like Playboy, Beechwood 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, and Don't Mess with Bill. But as fast as they shot to fame, things started to get rocky. Gladys Horton, the lead singer, faced struggles in her personal life and within the group. As they got more popular, the tensions started building, especially with Motown's management. Eventually, the drama, legal issues, and health problems took their toll, leading to the group falling apart. Even after the group split, Gladys's personal life wasn't easy. She dealt with health problems, money issues, and royalty disputes. Sadly, she passed away in 2011. Next, the Delfonics. The Delfonics were from Philly. They were key to the Philadelphia sound, blending soul, R&B, and pop. Along with groups like the Stylistics, they created the ultimate soundtrack for romance and heartbreak. Their breakout hit was La La Means I Love You, which reached the top 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. They followed up with hits like Didn't I Blow Your Mind This Time and Ready or Not Here I Come, solidifying their place in soul music history. However, things changed when Randy Kane, an original member, left in the 70s due to personal issues. After his departure, the group struggled to find their groove. Randy's life after the Delfonics was tough, and he passed away in 2009, possibly due to drug-related complications. His death was a huge loss, as his voice was essential to the Delfonics sound. Next, the Chai Lights. The Chai Lights were a beloved soul group of the 70s. Formed in 1959, the group went through several lineup changes, but always stuck to making music that connected with fans. Their biggest hit came in 1971 with Have You Seen Her, a heartache anthem that went top 10 on the Billboard Hot 100. They followed up with hits like Oh Girl, which reached #1, one on the R&B charts, cementing their place in soul history. However, the group faced setbacks, especially when lead singer Eugene Record left in the early 70s. His departure left a void, and the Chai Lights struggled without him. In 1992, founding member Creadell Jones passed away after facing tough personal struggles. His death highlighted the harsh realities of fame. Despite the challenges, the Chai Lights' music, like Have You Seen Her and Oh Girl, remains timeless, and their legacy endures in the soul music world. Next, the Five Stairsteps. The Five Stairsteps, aka the First Family of Soul, were a Chicago-based group that made a major impact in the 60s and 70s. Formed in 1965, the Burke siblings brought a killer mix of soul, R&B, and pop, becoming one of the first family bands to break big in the music scene. Their biggest moment came in 1970 with the iconic track OOH Child. The song, a total anthem of hope, landed at #1, 14 on the Billboard Hot 100, and it's still a soul classic today. The group kept the hits coming with tracks like Don't Change Your Love and Something's Missing in the early 70s. But drama hit in the mid-70s when Clarence Jr. left, causing the group to break up. The remaining members tried to keep going, but they couldn't catch the same magic again. Sadly, Clarence Jr. passed away in 2013 at 64, leaving a big hole in soul music. While the exact cause was unclear at first, it was later revealed that health struggles, including diabetes, played a part. Next, the Emotions.
Your heart's a fire, create for you.
The Emotions, originally known as the Hutchinson Sisters, started out in Chicago in the late 60s and quickly became known for their super emotional performances. They blew up in the 70s with their iconic hit Best of My Love, produced by Maurice White of Earth, Wind and Fire. The track hit #1 on the R&B charts and #5 on the pop charts, making it a forever classic. They followed that up with hits like I Don't Want to Lose Your Love and Flowers, securing their place in R&B history. But things hit a tough patch after they lost their father and manager, leading them to take a step back. The break affected their momentum, and while they came back to music, the loss weighed heavy on them and slowed down their success. Next, the main ingredient.
I don't mind if the tide sets the sun of
The main ingredient was a soul and R&B group that took over the 70s with their smooth sound and unforgettable tracks. Originally from Harlem, New York, they started out in 1964 as The Poets, before switching up their name to the main ingredient in 1967. With members like Donald McPherson, Luther Simmons Jr., and Cuba Gooding Sr., they brought a mix of soul, R&B, and pop, all highlighted by McPherson's strong lead vocals. Their biggest moment came with the release of Everybody Plays the Fool in 1972. The song was huge, peaking at #1, 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 and #1 on the R&B charts. Its catchy melody and McPherson's heartfelt delivery made it an instant classic. The success of that song really put them on the map, and they followed it up with hits like Just Don't Want to Be Lonely and Rolling Down a Mountainside. But things took a tragic turn in 1971 when McPherson was diagnosed with leukemia and passed away at just 29. The timing was devastating for the group, who were finally getting the recognition they deserved. After McPherson's death, the group tried to keep going with new singers, but they could never fully capture the magic he brought to the stage. Next, the Spinners. The Spinners, originally known as the Domingos, became one of the biggest names in soul and R&B in the 70s. Hailing from Ferndale, Michigan, they formed in 1954, but really hit their stride when they switched to the Spinners in 1961. Known for their smooth harmonies and mix of soul, funk, and pop, they were a staple in the music scene. Their big break came when they signed with Atlantic Records in 1972, teaming up with legendary producers Tom Bell and Linda Creed. That collaboration birthed massive hits like I'll Be Around, Could It Be I'm Falling in Love, and Then Came You, locking them in as R&B icons. Things weren't always smooth sailing, though. Original member C.P. Spencer left in the early 70s due to health problems, which shook up the group. Despite this, they kept on grinding and kept the hits coming. Sadly, Spencer passed away in 2004, marking the end of an era for the group. His departure was a huge loss given how much he contributed to their early sound. Next, the Manhattans.
Let's just kiss and say goodbye.
The Manhattans kicked off in 1962 with members like George Smith, Winfred Blue Lovett, and Richard Taylor. They quickly made a name for themselves with their polished sound. Over the years, their music evolved, but they stayed true to their emotional, heartfelt style. The group's big moment came in 1976 with their hit Kiss and Say Goodbye. Written by Lovett, this song became their signature track, topping both the Billboard R&B and pop charts. It's still a go-to classic for soul lovers, showing off their ability to mix smooth soul with raw emotion. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Tragedy hit in 1970 when lead singer George Smith was diagnosed with a brain tumor and passed away. Losing Smith was a huge blow, and while the group kept going, they never quite bounced back from the loss of their central vocalist. Next, the Persuasions.
Buffalo soul.
The Persuasions are straight-up legends in the a cappella world, originally from Brooklyn. The crew started in the 60s with Jerry Lawson, Jimmy Hayes, Herbert Road, Jyotis Washington, and Barney. They mixed soul, gospel, and doo-wop to create a sound that was impossible to ignore. Their big break came when they signed with Frank Zappa's label in the 70s. Their first album, The Persuasions Sing the Beatles, was a game-changer. They totally flipped classic Beatles tracks into a cappella hits, and people were hooked. This helped them build serious clout in the music scene and led to collabs with major stars. But things hit a tough spot when Jerry Lawson, the group's lead, decided to leave after over 40 years. That was a major shakeup, and things got even harder when Herbert Road passed away suddenly in 2006. The group kept going with new members, but it was clear things had changed. Next, the Stylistics.
All I'm wondering surprise.
The Stylistics are one of those iconic R&B groups that you just can't forget. Formed in Philly in '68, the original crew had Russell Tompkins Jr. belting out those unforgettable falsettos. Together, they became legends of the Philly soul sound, making tracks that hit you right in the feels. Their peak came in the early '70s with a series of massive hits. Songs like You Are Everything, Betcha by Golly, Wow, and Rock and Roll Baby were on repeat everywhere. The magic happened when Tompkins' soaring falsetto met the incredible production of Gamble and Huff, bringing those songs to life. You Are Everything even hit #1. One on the R&B charts, and Betcha by Golly Wow became one of their biggest classics. But things started to get rocky. Russell Tompkins Jr. had to leave the group because of health issues, mainly with his voice. Without him, the Stylistics just weren't the same. Next, the Temprees. The Temprees were one of the smoothest soul and R&B groups to come out of Memphis. Known for their dreamy harmonies and mix of soul and funk, the trio became favorites in the '70s for their romantic ballads and heartfelt performances. Their breakout moment came with the iconic hit I Found Love When I Found You, a track that instantly became a soul classic. With songs like Love's Calling, We're All Playing in the Same Band, and Two of a Kind, they solidified their spot in the R&B scene, leaving a legacy of smooth sounds and love-filled lyrics that still hit hard today. Sadly, things took a dark turn when member Jasper Jabbo Phillips was tragically in 2001. His death was a huge blow to the group and left a mark that was hard to move past. Afterward, the Temprees struggled to continue without him, and the group eventually disbanded. Next, the Moments. The Moments were a soul and R&B group that came up in the '70s. Originally from Washington, D.C., their big break came with the smash hit Love on a Two-Way Street, which went all the way to #1, 3 on the R&B charts, and firmly planted them as one of the go-to groups in the R&B game. Tracks like Look at Me, I'm in Love, and Sexy kept the momentum going, making the Moments a staple of '70s soul. But things weren't all smooth sailing. The group had to deal with some messy legal battles over their name, leading to a rebrand in the late '70s. They became Ray, Goodman, and Brown after the remaining members. But the name change wasn't just legal. It marked a shift in the group's sound and dynamic. Even with all the changes, they still managed to put out hits like Special Lady, but it wasn't long before they saw even more shakeups, especially when Harry Ray left. Next, the OJs.
I got what you want, you got what I want.
The OJs. Originally from Canton, Ohio, the group started as the Triumphs, but switched things up and became the OJs, all thanks to Cleveland DJ Eddie OJ, who helped get their music out there. Their big moment came in the '70s when they linked up with Philly International Records and legendary producers Gamble and Huff. This partnership gave us some of their biggest bops, like Love Train, Backstabbers, and For the Love of Money. Love Train was a game changer, hitting #1, one on the Billboard Hot 100 and giving them worldwide recognition. The OJs became the face of Philly soul. But in 1977, the group faced a huge loss when William Powell, one of the original members, passed away from cancer. Powell was a huge part of their sound and energy, so his death hit hard. Even though Eddie Levert and Walter Williams kept the OJs going, it was tough to fill that gap. Next, the Dells.
I really love you, stay.
The Dells were formed in Chicago back in 1952. The group quickly became one of the most respected vocal ensembles ever. The original crew set the stage for some of the smoothest tunes of the '60s and '70s. Their emotional delivery and tight vocals earned them a loyal fan base that stuck with them through the decades. One of their big moments came with the smash hit Oh What a Night in 1969, which made waves on the R&B charts, while songs like Stay in My Corner became classics, keeping the love going strong with R&B fans. The Dells proved they could evolve with the times, staying relevant while still keeping that signature sound. In 2004, they were even inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Iconic, right? But in 2013, the group faced a huge loss when Marvin Jr., their lead singer and the heart of their sound, passed away. After over 60 years of making music together, the remaining members decided to retire. Marvin's passing was the final blow. Next to the Impressions.
Say it's alright. It's alright.
The Impressions kicked things off in Chicago in 1958, with Curtis Mayfield, Sam Gooden, and Jerry Butler in the mix. Their sound was all about those gospel-style vocals, layered with deep unity and a sense of purpose. The Impressions dropped timeless tracks like People Get Ready, which is still considered one of the greatest soul songs ever, and It's All Right. These songs weren't just hits, they became anthems for change and hope, connecting deeply with the civil rights movement. They influenced a whole generation of artists and left a major mark on R&B. Fast forward to 2022, and the group faced a heartbreaking loss when Sam Gooden passed away. He'd been with the band from day one and had a huge hand in shaping their legacy. His death wrapped up a chapter in the Impression story. And lastly today, we have the Isley Brothers.
And if you ever leave me, I don't want nobody else.
The Isley Brothers? Legends, straight up. These guys have been shaking up the music scene since 1954. The trio, O'Kelly, Rudolph, and Ronald Isley, started out as a gospel group in Cincinnati, but they quickly switched it up, blending everything from doo-wop to funk, rock, and even a little jazz. Their sound? Totally versatile, which kept them at the top of their game for decades. One of their biggest moments came when they embraced funk in the 70s with It's Your Thing, a track that became an anthem and solidified them as funk icons. They kept delivering hits throughout the 70s and 80s, dropping classics like Shout, For the Love of You, and Between the Sheets, which are still played everywhere. Whether it was smooth ballads or funky grooves, they had it all. And the influence they've had on artists across genres is huge. They went through some tough personal losses that hit hard. In 1986, O'Kelly passed away from a heart attack, which changed the group dynamic. Then in 2010, Marvin Isley, a key player in their funk sound, died from complications related to diabetes. These losses really impacted the group, but Ronald Isley has kept their legacy alive.